Hey there, this is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com, and today I want to go over a really important subject for us, and that is the difference between squatting and hip hinging when we're using lower body movements and exercises. And it's important for us to understand this because when we're using exercises, when we're doing our strength training, we're not just doing the exercises, we're trying to practice specific movements that we want on the bike. And on the bike, it's important that we're able to both squat and do a good hip hinge on there. And so what I want to do is show you the difference between those two movement patterns and explain a little bit how they apply on the bike. And then hopefully you'll understand a little bit better why you need to be thinking about this stuff when you train and not just going in and just kind of mindlessly pounding out your reps and not really thinking about how you're moving, because that's not really going to help you on the bike. So first, what is the difference between a squat and a hip hinge? So a squat is going to basically see your chest stay more upright, your butt is going to sink straight down, and your knees are going to push forward more over your toes. So this is a good squat right here, a good basic squat. So as you can see, like I said, my chest is upright, my butt is down towards my heels like I'm trying to sit on a curb behind my heels, and you can see how my knees are over my toes, all right? So a hip hinge is kind of at the opposite end of that spectrum. So now what I want to do is push my butt back, let my chest come down, and my shins are going to stay vertical. My knees may push forward a little bit, but nowhere near as much as when I squat. So a good hip hinge will look something like this. So again, now my butt is way behind my heels. It's nowhere near as close to the ground. My chest is closer to the ground, and you'll notice how my shins are more up and down. So again, this is a good hip hinge. This is a squat, and this is a hip hinge. So you want to be able to own both ends of that movement. What happens is most people tend to get good with one end of that spectrum, and then they turn everything into it. So when they should be hip hinging, they're still trying to squat. And when they're trying to squat, some people are still trying to hip hinge. So you want to make sure that you're not one of those people and you're turning everything into that. So again, if someone's trying to squat into a hip hinge, then you'll see them push the butt back, but you'll see them really keeping the chest upright, fighting to keep it upright. And at this bottom position, you'll see the knees pushed more forward. So again, they're fighting their squatting tendencies by trying to but push their butt back. Then on the opposite end, if someone's trying to squat, but they tend to be more of a hip hinger, then they're really gonna lean over. They're gonna basically be unable to maintain any sort of posture and have their hips sink straight down. So again, being able to do both is important for us. Now, the reason for this, on the bike, it's going to affect your performance because squatting is more like your standing pedaling posture. So when you stand up to pedal, you need your hips to shift forward. You should be standing more over your feet, driving more down into the pedals instead of behind the pedals and pushing into them. So your whole posture changes and it becomes more of a squatting pattern, more of that upright torso, hips are forward, driving down. Now when we're in a seated pedaling position or when we're standing up in the attack position on the bike, then we want more of a hip hinge. We want the butt back and the chest down. And again, if we're not good at this, then we'll tend to round forward like this. We're not getting the hips back. We're just kind of rounding the shoulders forward, putting a lot of stress on the lower back, knocking us off balance on the bike, all sorts of things. So you need to be able to have a good hip hinge so that you can have a good efficient seated pedaling position and also be good and balanced when you stand up and you're in that attack position on your bike. And you also need a good squatting pattern because that's the secret behind having a good, strong standing pedaling stroke and being able to get into a good position there and apply power. And then off of the bike, it's just going to make sure that you're placing stress in the right places. Like a lot of times, knees, lower back, hips, things like that that hurt. It's not, the pain's not where the problem is. There's usually some sort of joint above or below it that's not doing its job. And a lot of times it relates to this squatting versus hip hinging concept and turning everything into one instead of being able to own both. So when you're doing your squats, make sure you're practicing squatting. When you're doing your hip hinging, like deadlifting, swings, things like that, make sure you're practicing that hip hinge and you get a lot more transfer from your exercises to the bike. But again, just understanding the difference between a good squat, again, butt down, chest up, and then a good hip hinge, butt back, chest down, and again, looking at the shins if they're more vertical versus push forward. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Again, hopefully this has helped you kind of understand that concept a little bit better and understand why I'm such a stickler for explaining how to do the exercises and how they should feel, because if you're not practicing the right movement pattern, if you're turning your swing into a squat, or you're turning your squats into some sort of funky deadlift, then you're not practicing the movement pattern you need. So no matter how strong you are on it, no matter how good you think you are at it, it's not going to transfer to the bike as efficiently if you're not practicing the movement behind the exercise. And understanding this hip hinging versus squatting is essential to that. So that's it. I'm going to go before I keep rambling on. This is one of those subjects that I could go on and on about, because there's a lot of different ways to apply this, both in the gym and on the bike. But this is a good overview. So once again, it's been James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems. You can check me out on the web at bikejames.com. And when you're there, be sure to sign up for the Trail Rider Fundamentals mini course. I got a lot of great free resources and stuff there for you. So be sure to check me out there. And hopefully you like this tip, and I'll talk to you next time.